Do you remember when a song didn't just sound like music, but felt like a road stretching out in front of you? Some songs feel small, like they belong in a room. Others feel big, like they belong in the sky, or the desert, or somewhere far away from cities and noise. With or Without You by U2, released in 1987, is one of those songs. It feels wide, open, and emotional, like standing somewhere alone and thinking about your life. To understand this song, we have to understand where U2 was in 1987. U2 were not just another rock band. By the mid 80s, they were becoming one of the biggest bands in the world, but they didn't start that way. They were four young men from Dublin, Ireland: Bono, The Edge, Adam Clayton, and Larry Mullen Jr., who formed a band when they were still teenagers. They were not the best musicians technically at the beginning, but they had something else: atmosphere, emotion, and very strong sense of purpose. Ireland in the late 70s and early 80s was not an easy place. There were economic problems, unemployment, and political conflict, especially connected to Northern Ireland and the Troubles. Many young people felt stuck, like they were living in a place where with limited opportunities. Music became a way to escape, to express frustration, hope, anger, and identity. U2 grew out of that environment, and their music always had a sense of seriousness and emotion, even when they were very young. By 1987, they released the album The Joshua Tree, and this album changed everything for them. It was the album that made them global superstars, and right in the center of that album was With or Without You, probably their most famous song. What's interesting about this song is that it almost didn't exist. The band struggled with it for a long time in the studio. They recorded many versions, and at one point they were close to giving up on it. The problem was that the song was very simple, and they were worried it was too simple. But sometimes the simple songs are the hardest ones to finish because every small detail matters. The producer Brian Eno, who worked with many important artists in the 70s and 80s, helped shape the sound. He was known for creating atmosphere and texture rather than traditional rock production. He liked sounds that felt like landscapes rather than just instruments, and you can really hear that in this song. The song begins very quietly with a soft rhythm and a repeating guitar sound. The Edge, the guitarist of U2, is very famous for his style. He doesn't play many fast solos or complicated riffs. Instead, he uses delay effects, echo, and repeating notes to create a kind of shimmering sound, almost like light reflecting on water. His guitar often sounds more like a keyboard or a texture than a traditional rock guitar. In With or Without You, the guitar is like a slow heartbeat in the background. It repeats, it echoes, it floats. The bass comes in and gives the song weight, like the ground under your feet. The drums are very simple and steady. Nothing in this song is fast or aggressive. Everything is patient. And then Bono's voice comes in, and the whole song becomes emotional. Lyrically, this song is about love, but not simple love, not the kind of love where everything is perfect. This is about the kind of love where you can't live with someone, but you also can't live without them. Almost everyone at some point in life understands that feeling. The title itself, With or Without You, already tells the whole story. It's a contradiction. It's a relationship where both options hurt. Staying hurts and living hurts. Bono wrote the lyrics during a time when he was struggling with balancing his personal life and his life as a musician. The band was becoming very famous, which meant touring, traveling, interviews, pressure, and less time at home. He loved his wife, but he also loved music and performing, and he felt torn between two worlds. That emotional conflict became the heart of the song. When he sings, I can't live with or without you, it doesn't sound dramatic or theatrical. It sounds tired, honest, and real, like someone who has been thinking about the same problem for a very long time. Now, let's talk about the sound of 1987, because this song is very connected to its time. The late 80s had a lot of big production, synthesizers, drum machines, very polished recordings, but U2 went in a slightly different direction with the Joshua Tree. They were inspired by American music, blues, country, gospel, and white American landscapes. Even though they were Irish, this album sounds very American in some ways, like deserts, highways, and big skies. This is interesting because in the 1980s, many British and European bands were moving toward electronic music and synthesizers, but U2 makes traditional instruments with atmospheric production. If you enjoy this kind of deep listening and reflection, join us live every week with the 90s Lover Show on Fridays and with the 80s Lover Show on Saturdays, both live at 7 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube and Kick channels. I first start the YouTube live stream for around 10 minutes just to allow people some time to gather as a kind of waiting room, and then we continue the full show live stream on Kick, where we can play full music, video clips with no restrictions. I, I share the link to Kick for you all to move there. And on Kick is where things really come alive with the four show segments, your song request, live voting, your voice messages on air, and even phone calls to share memories, stories, and reflections connected to the music and life. You can participate or simply listen, and if you feel like participating, you can do it on the Kicks live stream chat or by leaving comments on the main post of our public Facebook group, which allows more space to write. Join our public group on Facebook by searching for RetroLovers Radio 80s and 90s Nostalgia. Make sure also to subscribe on YouTube and turn on the notification bell. And keep an eye on all the 6 extra monthly special shows as well. The result was something that sounded both modern and timeless. Recording technology was also changing in the 80s. Digital recording was starting to appear, but many studios were still using analog tape. Producers were experimenting with reverb, delay, and new studio equipment that allowed them to create bigger and more spacious sounds. Songs started to sound wider, like they had more air inside them. With or Without You is a perfect example of that spacious 1980s production. Another important thing about this song is how it builds. The song doesn't start big. It starts small, almost quiet, and slowly grows. More layers come in, the guitar becomes louder, the drums become stronger, Bono sings more intensely. By the end of the song, it feels much bigger than at the beginning, even though the tempo never really changes. The kind of song structure became very popular later, the slow build, emotional rock song, but in 1987 this felt very fresh and powerful. There's also a special instrument used in the song called the infinite guitar, a device that allows the guitar note to sustain forever without fading. That's why some of the guitar sounds feel like they never end, like a long line stretching across the horizon. But let's pause here for a moment. If this song brings back a memory for you, maybe a relationship, a person, a road trip, a late night drive, or just a certain time in your life, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what this song means to you. These songs are like time machines, and everyone travels to a different place when they hear them. Alright, let's continue. When With or Without You was released, it became U2's first number one hit in the United States. That was a huge moment for the band. They were no longer just a successful rock band, they became global superstars. The album The Joshua Tree sold millions of copies and is now considered one of the greatest albums of the 80s. But what makes this song survive all these years is not just the success, it's the emotion. The song feels honest, it doesn't feel like a product. It feels like a feeling someone turned into sound. Some songs are like photographs, they capture a moment. Some songs are like letters, they tell a story. And some songs are like roads, they take you somewhere while you listen. This song feels like a road at night, with lights far away and a lot of time to think. If we step back and look at the late 80s, the world was changing again. The Cold War was slowly coming toward its end, technology was improving quickly, music television was huge, CDs were starting to replace vinyl and cassette tapes. Music was becoming more global, bands could become famous not just in their own country, but everywhere. U2 were one of the first bands of that era that felt truly international. They were Irish, inspired by American music, famous in Europe, huge in the United States, and listened to all over the world. And With or Without You was one of the songs that made that happen. Another reason the song became so important is because it works in many different situations. You can listen to it alone, in a car, on headphones, in a concert with thousands of people, or quietly at home. Some songs only work in one place, but others travel with you through different stages of life. And this is one of those songs. Before we finish, I want to ask you a few things. Do you remember the first time you heard U2 With or Without You? Was it on the radio, on MTV, in a car, at home, on cassette, on a CD? Does this song remind you of a specific person or relationship? Do you think this song is sad, romantic, or hopeful? When you hear it today, does it feel like the past or does it still feel present? Please write your memories and thoughts in the comments because the story of these songs is not just the artist, it's also everyone who listened to them. With or Without You is one of those songs that proves something very simple. Music doesn't always need to be complicated to be powerful. Sometimes a few chords, a steady rhythm, a guitar that sounds like light, and a voice singing something honest is enough. And maybe that's why the song is still here almost 40 years later. Because people still fall in love, people still break up, people still feel torn between two lives, people still drive at night and think about everything. And somewhere, someone is always listening to this song for the first time, while someone else is listening to it for the thousandth time. And both of them understand it. So, do you remember now? This music gave you joy. Now, allow this moment to receive that feeling. Alright, everyone, thank you so much for being here and see you all in the next one.